Hello YouTube, my name is Scott and welcome to Opinions No One Cares About, a show that has been described as... You have a YouTube channel? You? Really? So for this video, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I had a few ideas kicking around, and for a while I couldn't decide between them, and I kind of started dragging my feet as time went on. And when I realized I had come up against my self-imposed deadline, I decided to go with what for me seemed like the laziest option. As a longtime fan of Game of Thrones and Harry Potter, I am going to sort Game of Thrones characters into the four houses of Hogwarts. Now, as it turns out, this is easier said than done, for a couple of reasons. One, the characters in the Harry Potter universe are sorted into the houses of Hogwarts at the age of 11. And most of the characters in Game of Thrones, we meet them when they're adults. We don't know what they were like when they were 11, what sort of things shaped their character, what houses they would have been sorted into then that they might not fit in now. So, for the purposes of the video, I'm going to have to go by the characters as they were either in the books or the TV show. Probably more the TV show. I've read the books, but I don't exactly have them memorized, because who could possibly memorize 5 1,000-page books? And if you're out there and you can do it, I don't want to know about it right now, okay? Second, Game of Thrones has approximately 347 main characters. In the time it takes for me to sort every single one of them, this epidemic could probably be over. So what I've decided to do is pare it down into my choice for the top 10 characters to fit in each Hogwarts house. Now, I've decided to pick a house at random and just start going. So, let's start with Slytherin House. The students of Slytherin are known for their ambition, cunning, leadership, and resourcefulness. The problem being in Game of Thrones, which is a show about people jockeying for power to sit on a giant throne made of swords, ambition and cunning run rampant throughout the Seven Kingdoms. I have a list of 10 Slytherins, and I probably could have come up with, another 10. So, after paring it down, here's what I've come up with. To start, we have a couple of obvious Slytherins. Tywin and Cersei Lannister. These two are Slytherins down to the core. And if you need any proof, take a look at the chess match Cersei had with the High Sparrow, another Slytherin. It was a battle of wills that went back and forth until she stopped the whole thing by blowing up a damn church. Which is not to say that's what makes her a Slytherin. She's not a Slytherin because she's evil. Obviously she's evil. But her entire ambition has been to basically run the world, and she made it work. She got rid of all of her enemies, or at least a fair amount of them, in one fell swoop. And that is why she deserves the green and silver, just like her daddy. And, of course, just like the High Sparrow. Then we have what I like to call the social climbers. Walder Frey, who was willing to sell out the entire North, because apparently he couldn't marry off his family fast enough. I don't really know. Then there's Marjorie Tyrell, who betrothed herself, more or less, to no less than 3 men in the hopes of being a queen, and succeeded twice, before dying in the previously mentioned explosion. But, when it comes to social climbers, who can really forget good old Littlefinger? You remember Peter Baelish, man who decided he would stop at nothing until he had complete and total power? The man who said to himself, what does he need to do to get himself where he wants to be? Specifically, seated on the Iron Throne. Not mad that Arya slit your throat, dude. Definitely not mad. Not mad at all. Next on the list, we have the Baratheon brothers, Stannis and Renly. Now, Renly might not seem like the most Slytherin-y Slytherin out there, but you have to remember, even though he wasn't technically next in line for the king, he thought he should be king because people liked him. Highly ambitious. And Stannis? Literally nothing was going to stop him from becoming king of Westeros. Not even burning his own daughter at the stake. Leave us not forget he did that. I had no problem with him getting murdered, and I don't think you did either. Now, by my count, I believe that makes 8, which means I need to work on the last two. One, Daenerys Targaryen. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why in the world would Daenerys Targaryen be a Slytherin of all people? Well, she wanted to be queen of a kingdom she had never seen, didn't really recognize, and I think all things considered, she would have rather stuck to the Free Cities. But she didn't. So, she had to plot and scheme her way to Westeros. And then, of course, there are two other reasons. One, anyone who eventually turns to solving all their problems with dragons kind of seems a little Slytherin-y to me. And also, I mean, the symbol of Slytherin House is a serpent. How do you not include the mother of dragons? Which brings me to the last entry on the list, and the one that will probably cause the most uproar. Arya Stark. Yeah, didn't see that coming, did you? Ambition? From the tender age of, 11? She did not want to fit into the role her father was setting out for her. Being the wife of a lord and ruling over a holdfast? No. That wasn't for Arya. If you need proof that she was cunning or resourceful, gee, I don't know. What happened to House Frey again? Oh yeah, she killed them all. And leave us not forget the way she managed to kill her rival in the House of Black and White while suffering from being blind. And on a more personal note, she's basically Westeros Batman. Come on. She's a rich kid whose parents both died, and she grew up to be what was, for the time, a ninja. Arya Stark is awesome. Next on the list, we have Gryffindor House. Gryffindors are known for their courage, their bravery to the point of recklessness, their nerve, and their chivalry. The problem is, when you're dealing with Game of Thrones, there are a great many knights. Knights are generally known for their courage, their bravery, their nerve, and their chivalry. Does this mean every knight in the Seven Kingdoms is a Gryffindor? Absolutely not. You know who's a knight and definitely not a Gryffindor? This guy. No Gryffindor House for the mountain that rides. Now, with Gryffindors, there are some characters who you can tell are just born to be brave. You've got Ned Stark, who literally died for what he believed in. You have his son Robb Stark, who also was willing to die for what he believed in, but probably not in the way that he did. You have Brienne of Tarth, a woman who wanted nothing more than to be taken seriously as a knight. And boy, she was good at it. And then, of course, from Bear Island, you have the Mormonts, Jorah and Gior. Then, of course, we have the Gryffindors, who are brave to the point of recklessness. Examples of this would include Oberyn Martell, a man who willingly sacrificed his head to be squished just to try and take down the mountain. Rhaegar Targaryen, a man who risked a war just by kidnapping the girl he loved. Robert Baratheon, a man who started a war to get the girl he loved back. And then, of course, Jon Snow, one of the greatest Gryffindors in the Seven Kingdoms. But still, trying to fight Ramsay Bolton in like the entire North with far too few men. You were lucky the Knights of the Vale showed up, dude. Seriously. If you've been keeping track, that only makes 9 Gryffindors. So, who's last on the list? The one-handed, the only, Jaime Lannister. Which may or may not make sense considering how you look at it, but for most of the show, he was on a very, very Gryffindor character arc. He was a reckless sort of knight, mostly a jerk in the beginning. But over the seasons, he became better. He was courageous. He was chivalrous. He protected Brienne of Tarth's virginity. Of course, it all got wiped out in the last season when he decided to take said virginity and then leave to be with his sister again. But, that entire last season, what are you going to do, right? Next on the list, Hufflepuff House. Hufflepuffs are known for their patience, their hard work, their sense of justice, and their loyalty. Now, most people in the Harry Potter universe will just classify them as miscellaneous, like the house you go to when you don't actually fit in any of the other ones, but I think that's ridiculous. I mean, look at this guy, Cedric Diggory. He was a Hufflepuff, and he was a Hogwarts champion before he became a vampire, and I really wish I hadn't just made a Twilight reference. So Hufflepuff House values loyalty. And of these top 10 Game of Thrones characters who I've decided are Hufflepuffs, they all prize loyalty in one form or another. You have people like Podrick Payne and Davos Seaworth, who are loyal to their lords above all else. Then you have other people like Lysa Arryn and Tommen Baratheon, who are loyal to their family above all else. Then there are characters like Gendry and Hot Pie, good old Hot Pie, who are loyal to Arya above all else. And then, of course, there's Grey Worm, who is loyal to his queen above all else. Because, I mean, who else would he be loyal to? It only makes sense that he would blindly follow the woman who freed the Unsullied. But then, of course, that leaves a few more spaces that I'm sure you've noticed. One, it's a little difficult. One is very obvious. You know who he is. You have to. You must have guessed it. Yeah. Hodor. I'm still not over this man's death. He held the door. He was a true Hufflepuff. Anyway, the last two on the list, probably a little bit surprising. But let's start with the Hound. Yeah, the Hound. If you can appreciate the patience and the hard work that he put in to make sure his asshat of a brother finally got justice for burning his face when he was a kid, then yeah, definitely a Hufflepuff. And let's face it, all the time he spent with Arya without killing her, I'd call that loyalty. But number one on the list, and the one that's going to surprise the heck out of you, because I can see it already, Sansa Stark. Yeah, I know. She wound up being queen, she was ambitious, da-da-da-da. No, she wasn't. I have friends, and myself, who referred to her as Stationary Sansa, because for a long time, she didn't do anything. She just, basically stood around and let things happen to her. She was manipulated by people that were smarter than her. She was assaulted by Ramsay. But through it all, it was the loyalty. Loyalty to House Stark and loyalty to the North that carried her through. And that's why, were I a bannerman, I would bend the knee to Sansa Stark, the Queen of the North! So finally we have Ravenclaw House. The house I definitely did not save for last just because I happen to be one. Ravenclaws are valued for their intelligence, their creativity, their willingness to learn, and their wit. Now, when it comes to intelligence, you might just say, oh, well, the Maesters are intelligent. Every Maester must be a Ravenclaw. Maybe. But this list is not 10 Maesters. I'm not sure I even know 10 Maesters. What I can say is, this Maester right here deserves to be a Ravenclaw. And he also deserved to be king. I don't know why you made that choice, Maester Aemon. I really don't. And as a matter of fact, you can also add Samwell Tarly, the Maester that would be, to this list. I mean, what was his pat response to things? I read it in a book. And then, of course, you have people like Melisandre and Thoros of Myr, both on this list because of their ability to bring people back from the dead. I think that counts, wouldn't you say? You have characters like Missandei, because you cannot tell me that a woman who speaks 19 languages is not a Ravenclaw. It just doesn't work that way. There are people you wouldn't expect, like Roz. You may recall she wound up being in charge in one of Baelish's whorehouses. I'm not sure I can say that without getting kicked off YouTube, but we'll see what happens. Next would be Jaqen H'ghar, the Faceless Man. You all knew this was coming. This guy, I mean, what is there to say about him? A man was awesome. And then, even if it might be a little bit of a stretch because he may not have started out that way, Bran Stark. And he's the Three-Eyed Raven. He holds the history of Westeros. He can travel through time, maybe even affect it, as we saw with Hodor. Bran, you were a true Ravenclaw of House Stark, but you did not deserve to be king. Bran? Really? And then, of course, there are the two that you probably wouldn't expect someone to call Ravenclaws, but they were. First up, Lord Varys. I know, ambition, cunning, he's a Slytherin. No. Because he wasn't ambitious, that's the thing. Ned Stark figured that out very early on. He asked him who he served, and what did Varys say? The realm. Someone has to. All that power, and he doesn't want it for himself. He just wants to keep the kingdom running. So, I'm placing him in Ravenclaw. Right alongside my easily favorite character, and I hope yours too, Tyrion Lannister. Yes, I know. His sister's a Slytherin. His father's a Slytherin. He is also very cunning. Thing is, he wasn't ambitious either. Despite being Hand of the King 3 times, he never wanted it. His father made him Hand of the King when he couldn't serve Joffrey, and Daenerys and Bran just kind of hung the mantle on his head. Tyrion Lannister, he didn't want power, but he just sort of stumbled ass backward into it. And personally, due to what he did with that power, keep the kingdoms running, he deserves to be a Ravenclaw. It's quite an honor, I think, for the god of tits and wine. But anyway, that's what I think. I know there's many characters missing, and I would love to hear any comments you have. Any characters you'd like to see me sort. Any disagreements you might have. Hopefully many agreements that you have, because I did put some effort into this. Leave a like. Definitely drop a comment below. Share it around with your friends. Subscribe if you haven't. And again, in the midst of this coronavirus, try to stay safe. If you are sick, quarantine yourself. If you're not sick, wash your hands and practice social distancing. And just remember, like I said before, even if you don't think you get sick, you could get someone else sick. I'm just saying, let's all look out for each other, okay? I'm Scott, and this has been Opinions No One Cares About. Everyone has opinions. This one was mine.